At some point, somewhere, somehow, we all fall into patterns and develop routines. Now, routines are actually really useful. They give us a sense of security and predictability. They help us create these comfort zones in which we feel we can achieve our best. And also, when used cleverly, routines can help us grow and develop skills. Because, for example, you are much more likely to get better at any kind of sport that you play regularly. The same goes for playing a musical instrument or solving math problems. Unsurprisingly, photography works much the same way. And what tends to happen is that most of us start out by photographing kind of everything, and then eventually we narrow it down and we find something, be it, if you're a portrait photographer, maybe it's a particular model. If you are a landscape photographer, maybe it's a particular location, or just a genre or a setting that we just really enjoy, really feel in tune with. And then we start doing it more and more, we become more comfortable with it, we develop necessary skills to explore sort of the photographic potential there. Eventually the results get better, hopefully. And maybe we even get confirmation and praise and encouragement from people around us to encourage us to do more and more of that. And before we know it, it becomes part of our photography and our photographic style, for lack of a better term. And what happens then is that we stick with it, because if it ain't broke, right? But sometimes, every once in a while, it's really useful to break the routine and to get out of our comfort zone and go out there and explore something new. It will give you a new experience, it will give you new skills, and who knows, maybe you will find something that will eventually become a mainstay of your photography, because if you don't try, you don't know. And this is exactly what I'm aiming to do with this new sub-series on my channel titled Never Have I Ever. In each episode, I'm going to explore a genre of photography or a setting or a technique, be it a shooting technique or technique for processing and printing film, that I haven't done before. So these are definitely not meant to be instruction videos or guides to these techniques and scenarios. Instead, these videos are meant to be more of an inspiration to you, my viewers, to join me in this exploration. Go out there and try something new. And it doesn't even need to be the same thing that I do in these videos, because we're all different, and something that is new to me might be something that you've been doing for years and know the ins and outs of. So go out there and do something new, whatever it is, and then come back to the comment section below and let me know, what did you do? How did it make you feel? What were the results like? And did it have any impact on the types of photography that you usually do as well? With that out of the way, I'm Leo Nikishin. This is 10 Rolls of Film. I'm Leo Nikishin. This is 10 Rolls of Film. Let's do this. Now, the way I usually shoot is one camera, and more often than not, one lens too. And I feel that it allows me to really tune into the frame format and the field of view that I have on hand. I understand that it might sound very limiting to some, but I actually feel more relaxed and creative with this self-imposed limitation. It just makes me feel like I can concentrate better on what I shoot, rather than keep considering, oh, should I try this with another lens or another camera, things like that. But this is not a drill. This is a Never Have I Ever episode. So I'm going to do the exact opposite. And today I'm going out with 3 cameras. And to make matters worse for myself, I chose 3 cameras that are about as different from each other as they can possibly be in my current camera arsenal. So let's go meet them. Representing the standard 35mm frame, we have the Kiev 3. It's a rangefinder camera, as you can tell from these 2 windows here. And it's equipped with a 50mm f2 Jupiter 8 lens. It's a Soviet copy of the famed Sonar, Carl Zeiss Sonar design. So it's a lens pretty famous for its rendering, which is pretty unique. So yeah, I think I will be quite motivated to use it more wide open, or at least wide open-ish, depending on the exposure and the lighting conditions. But yeah, let's see how it does. Next up, from the small but formidable Panoramic Club, we have the original KMZ Horizont. Yes, this early one actually has a T at the end of the name. And it's a panoramic camera that has a 28mm f2.8 lens. So the vertical field of view is what you would expect from a 28mm lens. But then that lens sits on this horizontal swing. So it will go like this across this slit and keep capturing the light. So the horizontal field of view is much, much wider. How wide, you might ask? Well, I'll tell you how wide. If you hold this camera like this, which is how you would usually hold a camera, right? You know, with your index finger on the shutter button and the rest of the fingers at the front of the camera, your fingers will be in the shot. That's how wide it is. You know, you can see even by the curve of the viewfinder glass that, yeah, things are going to get really wide. And the resulting negative is a whopping 24 by 58 millimeter frame. You know, compare that to a normal 35mm frame, which is 24 by 36 millimeter. And yeah, things are going to get pretty wild in here. As for focusing, well, there isn't any. You basically just control the depth of field by changing the aperture and hope for the best. And I would say that even at f16, you are not really going to get anything closer than maybe about a meter or so in focus. Well, this is going to look like a little blurred. So yeah, let's see what kind of fun this brings on. Finally, the delegation from medium format is this MPP micro cord. It's a twin lens reflex or TLR camera. I think twin lens is pretty self-explanatory. There is a viewing lens through which you frame the shot at the top, and then there is a taking lens at the bottom. The lenses are the same focal length, so that what you see is roughly what you get. And you focus it through this waist level viewfinder, and the resulting negative is the classic, you might even say iconic, 6x6 or 2¼ inch square format. As for the lens, it's a, I don't know if you can see, it's a 77.5 millimeter lens. I gotta love how precisely that is marked. And the field of view is roughly equivalent to a 43mm lens on a 35mm camera. But of course, because the frame is very differently shaped, the fields of view are not exactly equivalent, and that will surely come into play here. Both the Kiev and the Horizont are going to be loaded with Rollei RPX 400, while the microcord gets a roll of Fomapan 400. Now, the weather actually turned out to be a lot better than I expected, and 400 speed films were a bit too fast, so I decided to pull them by one stop to exposure index 200. Later on, Fomapan 400 from the microcord is going to be developed in Adox FX39, while the two Rollei RPX 400 rolls are going to be developed in Moersch Tunnel Speed, a staining pyro developer. With everything finally packed, I headed out to Westduinpark. It's a park and nature reserve on the outskirts of The Hague, Netherlands. And it is one of my absolute favorite places to visit around here. It's got some really nice views, beautiful sand dunes, some wildlife, particularly birds. Nazi bunkers that were part of the Atlantic Wall fortifications, and on this occasion also a Dutch Air Force F-16 flying over. Before we take a look at the results, a few quick notes about the technical issue I faced here. First of all, film development. Now, full disclosure, these were new development times for these films and these developers for me. And the one for the Fomapan 400 actually worked really well, and I think the combination of exposure and development is right on. But the one for RPX 400 didn't work so well, and I either overdeveloped or overexposed or both, because the negatives came out really, really thick, and it's entirely possible that I messed up the exposure settings here and there because of switching between the cameras all the time. It was made worse by the fact that two cameras, the Micro Cord and the Kiev, could use filters. So I used the red filter pretty liberally because there was a lot of blue sky that sort of begged for it. But the Horizont doesn't take normal filters. It takes these weird framed tiny filters that are quite rare and very limited in selection. So I didn't use a filter on the Horizont, and maybe here and there I just miscalculated and transferred exposure settings directly from one camera to the other while one was used with a filter and the other one wasn't. Something like that. In any case, not the best solution. I need to work on the development times for RPX 400 and tunnel speed combination in the future. And finally, my Horizont decided to once again develop the issues that it has already had in the past, and they were fixed, which is a light leak and an uneven exposure, which means that this horizontal swing on which the lens sits didn't move smoothly and evenly enough to expose the whole frame evenly. And it's a very common issue with these cameras, unfortunately, so they'll have to be sent out for repair. But you know what? I decided to include the Horizont shots anyway, because after all, this is not meant to be a camera review, and you can still see the differences in frame format, and you can still get the feel of how these different frame formats made me compose differently and approach the same scene differently, which in the end is the main goal of this video. Hey folks, so almost done shooting here, and I thought it would be a good time to pop out to the beach and talk to you a little bit about how it went and the first impressions of this little experiment. And well, it's a workout. First of all, it's a workout physically, because I'm not used to carrying this much gear at one time at all. And also I had to, of course, carry a digital camera and all the accoutrements to make the video possible. So yeah, it's quite a bit. And about halfway through, I started to feel like, yeah, I'm discovering some muscles I didn't quite know I had in me. And then, of course, it's a workout mentally because, I was thinking about this, that it's sort of like interval training. You start using one camera, you get used to it, you get used to thinking in the framework of that frame size and focal length and everything. And before you get used to it, you have to switch. So it is kind of like interval training, sort of stop and start, stop and start, stop and start. And yeah, it was really different, very different to how I usually shoot. But I liked it. And at some point, my brain just switched into this like sort of triple mode where I just decided, okay, I'm going to do this type of shots with this camera, this type of shots with this camera. And kind of stuck with it for the most part. And that made things easier. I didn't try to make all three cameras do the same thing because I think that would be kind of silly. They are not meant to do all the same thing. But otherwise, yeah, it was really fun. I'm happy that I did it. Will I do it again? Well, no, I won't. It's just a bit too much hustle logistically, just carrying all the gear and also, switching between them. And, today is a beautifully sunny day with lots of blue sky. So I used a red filter pretty liberally on the Kiev and the micro cord. And they share the same filter size in my kit. So, I had to switch the filter between them all the time and then, taking out the digital camera in between to film video. Yeah, it was a little bit more hustle than I would like to have to deal with usually. But it was a good exercise, and I think every once in a while I might do this. Maybe not with as many cameras, maybe on a shorter scale. But yeah, it was definitely worth doing. It's good brain gymnastics. Well, this is it for the inaugural episode of Never Have I Ever. And sure, it was more of a fun challenge than something I would seriously consider doing on a regular basis. But you know what? That's okay. New experience was had, new skills and new muscles, both muscles in my brain and muscles in my back, were developed. But most importantly, fun was had. And I think some of the results turned out quite alright. What did you think? Which photographs did you like the most or the least? What were your thoughts on the differences between the different cameras and the way I worked with them? And also, what do you think I should do next? Maybe there is an area of photography that you're very passionate about and would like to see me try. I'd love to hear that. In any case, let's meet down in the comments and talk about it. Till next time. Oh yeah, like, comment, share, subscribe, all of those things, of course.